Good morning. Greetings, Mark Grang, publisher of the Conway Daily Sun, and my guests today are two people from Badger, Peabody, and Smith, Brendan Battenfelder, who's the vice president down here, down the street in North Conway, and Kate Frisk, who's an agent up in Gorham. Brendan, Kate.
Thanks, Mark.
How you guys doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
Good. So this is going to be an interesting one because we're going to talk about the Berlin market and the Conway market and how things are going there. But just to kick it off, Kate, you sold a property in Berlin, actually.
Yeah.
That is like, talk about it, but it's like the highest sale in Berlin, possibly residential sale ever?
It is, which was a surprise to me, probably more than anybody else. I had no idea until after it had sold. Yeah.
All right, so without putting it up, viewers, guess how much that is. So the highest property, and Kate is going to tell us it's, how much is it,
560.
All right, so Rob, if you could show that property. So it's a nice property, needless to say, and it's on Kate's Hill, which is where in Berlin, actually? Is that up by the community college?
Kate, somewhat. It's on the other side.
Right, but it's up on the hill.
It is,
obviously.
yeah. It's right up on the top, and this particular property is over 40 acres up there. Beautiful views of the mountains. The original part of the home was built back in the 70s, but the largest part was actually an addition in the 80s.
Yeah.
So
the interesting part, I mean, it's a nice home at 40 acres. I mean, 40 acres down here would probably fetch more than
40 acres could get you 560. Yeah, right.
So, you know, let's talk about the difference. Let's talk about the Berlin market in general, but the difference between the Conway market and the Berlin market. I mean, a $500,000 home, I mean, here we are in CV Street. You just got to go walk up 100 yards and everything is $500,000.
yeah.
So, why don't we say, Kate, first, like, how's the Berlin market doing? And the Gorham market, because your office is in Gorham.
Yeah. Yes,
And what
yeah,
is the difference between Berlin and Gorham besides?
Well,
5
you know,
miles?
they're sister cities, sister towns, I guess you could say. You know, they're very close knit. You know, connected by the Berlin-Gorham Road.
Right.
You know, we share the same Walmart and all that
Yeah.
nice stuff. But Berlin, we're talking about 10,000 people, whereas Gorham, we're talking about around 3,000 people. The prices in Gorham tend to be a little bit higher than they are in Berlin. Berlin remains one of the more affordable areas when it comes to housing prices. As you can see, you know, the highest sold at 560.
Right.
So it's one of the more affordable towns.
Now, what are the homes, like, I think people would know this, when you go by the Riverwalk on the way to the old Berlin Dairy Bar, which is now going to be a casino, right?
Yep.
But those homes there, just they're like homes up in North Conway here. I mean, just older homes. I mean, a lot of these have been converted to B&Bs, but how much would they go for, like that neighborhood? They used to call it Norwegian Village up
They
there.
still do.
But they do.
They still call it that, yeah. I mean, you're looking in the 200 area, you know, anywhere between, you know, maybe a 180 and, you know, if you're talking about a really nice one, then maybe up around 280. But you're not going to go past that.
So, Brendan, just macro-wise, I mean, that 280 is probably 580 or 680
Right.
here. So, speak to the markets.
Well, I think you're looking at demand, right? I think more the central part of New Hampshire is really bolstered by the tourism economy and that tourism demand for housing, right? So we have the age-old debate that we've had here in this region about the housing stock and who owns it, right? Do they live here? Do they rent it? Do they come up only for the ski season? And that outside demand, that has grown, I think, in the Berlin-Gorham region. We're seeing more people show up, and I don't want to make that excise in expansion, but it has grown the vacation market a little bit, maybe due to ATVing and the rural aspects of opportunities up there in that region. So there's just, I think there's just, the housing stock is what it is. It's been a national debate.
Right.
The number of homes and front doors that we have just exists, and it is behind the demand. And we are inflated by, you know, the homes are owned more than by the people that just live here.
Now, you were saying, and we were talking before we went on the on air, is that about there's a lot of people within Berlin buying Berlin properties. So are you getting a lot of, I mean, as much as we're at Conway, big tourist area, obviously, but Berlin-Gorham, that's a whole other world of North Country experience with outdoor rec, fishing, hunting, all that, trails, ATVs. So are you getting people buying second homes there for that reason, or are the people or your Berlin sales and Gorham sales mostly within market?
Yeah, we're not seeing too many people who are looking for second homes up in that area. Maybe a couple here and there in Gorham, but not for the most part. We are now starting to see a lot of people from Conway that are coming up to our area just for sheer affordability purposes.
So that's what I was going to, that was my next question. So, I mean, you know, certainly if people can't afford a home here for obvious reasons, but, and you know, I've talked to many people over the years about that, people who've worked here, but just to buy a place in Berlin 40 minutes away versus buying a place in Bridgeton 40 minutes away, going over that notch, it's not only is it a physical impediment, but can be a psychological impediment. Do you find that? I mean, when people come in to Conway often and say, oh, I'm looking for, you know, I'm a local, I'm blah, blah, blah. Do you ever say, hey, geez, why don't you go to Berlin for a $250,000 house?
I think a lot of times, depending on where people are qualified, we will expand the opportunity. And it becomes an either I'm focused here in the Mount Washington Valley, and it becomes a much harder task, right? Or we have really good communication between North Conway and the Gorham office, and we will connect people who have started to look down here with housing opportunities up there, right? And so people are looking in Shelburne and maybe Randolph, but Berlin, you know, offers more housing stock at a much more affordable price. The median home price is roughly half of what it is in this region, right? We're well over 500 right now in the summer of 2026. And Berlin, Gorham region are, you know, they're in the mid 200s now, which has climbed over 200, you know, within the last year and a half.
Now, didn't it, I could be misremembering this, but I thought, because, you know, 5 years ago, certainly before COVID, those homes were $120,000.
Correct.
But didn't it sort of peak and then come back down a little bit recently, or
That's what we're feeling. Yeah, that's certainly what we're feeling on the ground. I think, you know, when you look at the paperwork, the numbers tend to, you know, tell a bit of a different story. But working the ground and, you know, watching what's actually happening there, yeah, you know, things have started to slow down a little bit. I read a statistic the other day saying that of the active sales that we have in just Berlin alone right now, 40% of them have already had to reduce their price because buyers are just not having these prices anymore.
So is that, Brendan, I mean, that probably is the same for here too. It always seems like when you're at the top of a market, people say, oh, the prices are coming down, but a lot of that, to me, some of that is that people are already overreaching.
Right. We've talked about this before, that coined phrase of aspirational pricing, right? So we're seeing a lot of people come to the market with this, you know, larger than fair market value approach. And there are pressures in the market. One of the things we're seeing is an increase this year, anywhere from 5%, 11%. You know, it depends on the market you're in. We're seeing more inventory, so more houses are coming to the market, right? That helps grow a market, that gives more opportunity to buyers. But we're seeing over 20, it's 21, 25, depends on your market. Over 20%, a fifth of homes that come on the market don't sell. They expire, they come off the market.
I mean, is that just recently you're saying?
No, this is, we've achieved this level more recently, within the last year and a half. So the headlines are celebrating more inventory, and so is the real estate community. We need more inventory, more opportunity for
So how
people.
many homes or places are available in Conway, in the Mount Washington Valley, like in general?
So the
Like 10, 50?
Carroll right now, so as of July, the total number of houses for sale in July for Carroll County was 370, and 200, no, it's Coos County. So that's Carroll County, and I have Conway here, 55 houses listed in Conway.
Now, you know, 3 years ago, right, people were lining up, and you
They
know,
were lining up.
So how many was it then? Like zero? I mean, it's kind of like a zero.
No, I mean, we got there pretty quickly, but we were starting to carry, you know, probably 100 and something houses. But that inventory, as soon as kind of the COVID lockdown boom, right, 2 months, 3 months after that, that started to trickle down really fast. Stuff started to get gobbled up really quick. And we were running with, you know, probably 5% less. So the numbers don't seem drastic, but 55 to 45 or 55, right? So, and that's a snapshot in time. Year to date, the number of houses in Carroll County that have closed, 461. Last year it was 450. So these aren't drastic shifts.
Right.
That is 2%.
So it's
right?
not a buyer's market.
Not here. Now, switch markets, and there's more pressure on pricing, and there's more inventory when you go north of the notch.
And that's for why? I mean, like, I realize every market is sort of peaking now for all the reasons we're talking about, but why Berlin so much? I mean, I guess the other way of asking is like, what put the pressure on it a couple of years ago? I mean, why was there upward pressure and not so much now? I'm like, what's changed in Berlin?
That's great. I don't know that we have the crystal ball. There's no immediate
you're
answer
the
to that.
experts, guys.
Berlin is a little bit ahead of the curve. There's been more pressure up there on pricing, and I think some of it, New England and some of parts of New England have held on. You look at Grafton County to some extent; they've had a little bit pressure, not as much as maybe Coos County, right? But they've had a little bit more pressure than Carroll County, and Carroll County continues to have a faucet of vacation and investor money.
Yeah.
Right? And so I would say New England as a whole has held on. I mean, if you could look at the Florida markets, the Texas markets, the California, right? They're losing 5%, they're losing 12%. The headlines will show you that they're recovering now, but everyone recovers in the summer. Real estate just becomes more prolific in the summer. The turn comes certainly in New England when we get into October, November. Right, that is where there's more pressure on pricing. There's less inventory. People will back out of the market, and so we see the positives of the summer. What's putting pressure on the North Country right now? It may be the general economy. Yeah. It might be that it is just home ownership, inflation. Some of those costs might be starting to land in those towns.
I mean, speaking of the availability, I read a stat where on the state level, the realtors were celebrating that there were like 2,500 homes on the market in New Hampshire, which was up.
Yeah.
But it also said pre-COVID there were 10,000.
Right.
I mean, like it's just so the incremental change is not. I mean, it sounds good, but it ain't that much.
It's been a bouncing statistic, but the last 3 years, probably the last 3 years, were the lowest in 30 years in the inventory that was available to sell.
So what about the Conway? We talked about the Berlin market. How is the Conway market? And what layperson sees, I see that Cranmore's not building their next building right now, though the expensive condos. I don't think all the Whispering Pine down at the Ridgelines, those
they're still building.
They're still building, and it's going to be successful and all that. But they're not flying off the table. I think. I mean, what do I know? But I mean, where is there? I mean, at some point, gosh, if it's a house like Whispering Pine to $700,000, it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what we're running into is a meld of the engineering, I would call it bureaucracy, the red tape of building, the process of getting all that set has ramped its way up, right? Coming out of COVID, coming out of a stronger market, coming out of interest rates that were trying to fight their way back down again, are being met with, these projects are now shovel ready and poured and started, right? I think you're running into a little bit of the economy pressure. The interest rates are back up to 6.6, 6.7, right? Where we had hit 5.9 for a couple months, right? Early winter. So, I'm sorry, early this year. So I think we are seeing some of that larger economic pressure being put out there. First-time home buyers, starter homes, that kind of stuff, they're still, the pricing is the biggest issue. They're a little more willing to eat the interest rate right now. It's the price that has really been the struggle.
Which is really part of the price, right? When people buy a home, the interest rate is part of the price.
The interest rate is part of the affordability of the home, right? So if your house has been on the market for 360 days, you came on, priced your home when interest rates were closer to 6.
Yeah.
People are paying now 1% more, 0.7 more, right? It depends on what you're qualifying for. So that just puts downward pressure on affordability. What it's doing is the buyers are putting some of that pressure back on the seller. They're negotiating harder. They are inspecting homes. They're holding their ground on inspections. And so some of that aspirational pricing, if there's low inventory, you may get that initial price, but know that the buyer wants everything to live up to that price. And if not, they're going to walk.
It is amazing because it was only a few years ago where no inspections.
Right.
You just buy a house, boom, 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 and there it is.
Right.
So that's like a concept that's coming back. So, and it's always true in Ridgeline, you know, I mean, that's a huge project and it's going to be assisted living and all that stuff. It's going to be very,
Yep.
it's going to be quite an asset for the community. But it always seems true is that a lot of these big projects come online, like they take so long to get through the pipeline,
Yeah.
they come online just when it's not as hot as the market was when they started it, right? And what do what do developers say about, I know with the apartment, I guess the part of this question is that how much the build out of apartments is going to affect Conway.
Right.
I mean, we've got the
River
line.
River Turn.
River, which one? The back of TJ Maxx?
Back at TJ Maxx.
That's River Turn?
River Turn, I believe.
All right. I thought that was River Line. Okay, whatever it is.
Okay, could be River Line, sorry. I don't mix it up with Ridge Line, but yes, okay.
Yeah, so that's, but there's a couple hundred there.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And then there are others that are coming online. So
Correct.
does that affect how does that affect you? Is it sort of like a feeder program so people can actually live here, get an apartment, and then, you know, because that's been part of our workforce issue.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it's no place for people
Certainly.
to live.
Certainly. It certainly will be. I mean, those that have an opportunity to be able to rent here in town, that set roots, get promoted, find job opportunities, place children in schools, they're going to set roots, right? And then those roots, hopefully, for a lot of people, see the value of home ownership. That will transition to, I'd like to buy now. So, you know, will we see that? The demand has been there. The demand hasn't softened since probably, you know, 2014, 2016. I mean, the demand was there going into COVID. It exploded during COVID. A lot of that was, it's cliche to say it's flee the city money, but
Right.
there was a lot of maybe we should buy something. Back that up with short-term rentals, right?
Right.
That become hip. Oh yeah, I could own this thing. It'll make me money, maybe.
What are Airbnb? Speaking of which, a little digression here, but I know that I have a neighbor that was in the Airbnb business, and their couple is just out of it. Like
Right.
it's just too much of a hassle.
Right.
So do you find that? I know there's someone who has a Airbnb in North Conway up here on Mechanic Street. They renovated Airbnb, and they're just done. They want long-term
Right.
tenants now
Right.
because it's it's an effort.
Yeah.
I mean, you find that where's the Airbnb world from your perspective with investors?
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
it's on the buy side, there's still out there, that dream still exists, right? That opportunity of owning home ownership and creating this thing that will be a part of that market. I don't want to say it's past, but it's saturated in the sense of there's a lot more inventory in the Airbnb market if you pull up kind of the Conway region now, right? So what I'm seeing is you are seeing some of the folks that were self-managing that are backing off or seeing a little bit lower occupancy rates, right? Maybe they've had to change their pricing. It has become very competitive. If you talk to the Airbnb managers now, it is quite interesting to hear from them about amenity stacking. Like, how, you know, do you allow dogs? Do you have a hot tub? Do you have a screened-in porch? Do you have a backyard? Before it was just, I had a house and I think people will rent it. Now it's almost like the hotel industry, where they, you know, so what we're seeing, some of the managers that are managing these properties professionally, they're doing great, right? They're strategically buying the right properties, great location, amenities, ample parking, not an interference with the neighbor. I get that that's subjective, and
Right.
but they're strategically working with the right properties, building them, and then the algorithms that those software programs use are crazy. And it is they will work it, and we can't do this, but we can do this, and we.
So when you say professional, you mean like me being a professional if I try to buy 3 homes, or you mean like a corporation?
So there's that too, and I think my humble opinion is we've seen less of that. So Marriott has a short-term rental program,
but not locally.
But I don't believe it's here locally.
Okay.
I don't anecdotally know. Maybe they have one, maybe they don't. But some of the larger resorts, like the Omnis and they were getting into it. They know the hospitality business, right? Now you're taking that other tier of local managers that know how to run it, and they may have 15, 20, 50
But
of
these managers or these owners? I guess
managers. They're managing for owners.
Okay.
So the owner really is cutting a check involved to some extent. But these managers have plow teams, maintenance teams, cleaning teams, customer service teams, and they are really truly managing it and setting the schedules and working with dynamic pricing. Are we at this price this week, that price next week? It's become a science.
But part of the game for an individual to get in, and it used to be if a home here was a Mechanic Street for $300,000, the math works out. But if you have to get into the game at a $600,000 home, I mean, that makes it more difficult.
It makes it more difficult, and I am now for that true investor, and my team, we are going to some of these managers to bring them into the conversation. Because when we had met with them years ago, they'd say, we are honest with the client when they call us that these were the mistakes that were made when you bought the property. So we might find something slopeside attached for $1.5 million. It sleeps 18 people, you can ski in, ski out. It's beautiful, it has a view, this looks amazing, and they'll go back and say, this isn't gonna work.
Okay, so what you're saying is that in the old days, but people come in and say, hey, I want to buy a property here, but second home, but I also want to do Airbnb because I can offset my costs. So that's that relationship, or what you talked to them about, has changed now?
I think that has softened a little bit. And where you were at 3 years ago or through post-COVID and all that, I think that has softened. I want to put it on Airbnb and I want to offset some of my expenses, that has become harder because the professionally managed ones, so maybe not the resorts, right? Because they're using a lot of their own pipeline to feed those. So these are people using the Airbnb, VRBO platforms. They're very good at it. And they will have their properties rise to the top. Yeah. And so they have strong occupancy. So there's a catch-22. You could ask me, how's Airbnb doing? I've got some owners that don't have occupancy rates that they used to have. And I've got others that are...
Who are in the right management people.
I'll text them. I'll stay in touch with them. How's it going? It's been quiet. We're not booked for Labor Day weekend. And then I'll call others and say, I am slammed and people are begging me for opportunities. So, and I'm seeing that, to me, the divide is professionally managed. They've got it down versus personally managed. And they're making money, but they're not offsetting their cost.
How does Airbnb, Kate, what's the Airbnb experience in Berlin-Gorham? Is there much of it?
There was, not quite as much anymore. So we were originally seeing, within the past couple of years, we were seeing a lot of people coming in and investing in property to open it up for short-term rentals. And what we're finding is within a year or two, these same people are saying, I'm burnt out, I just don't want to do it anymore. Because oftentimes they are taking care of it themselves. They don't have that professional team to come up and do it. They might have a professional cleaner go in, but everything else they're taking care of on their own. And it's not really as strict in Berlin-Gorham as it is in Conway. They don't really need all the amenities. They need a spot to park their ATV or their snowmobile. So as long as they have that, the people were coming, they remained busy. But they just got burnt out. I don't see as many people right now who are looking to invest in that type of property anymore, and they're all trying to sell them.
Yeah. Wow, sell them.
Yep.
Is there a market for what about in Berlin, and you represent Berlin too, right? I mean, obviously. So what about like the classic triple decker, the 3-decker homes on Western Avenue and all that? Is that still, because there was a point where because we have a paper that we reported that, well, one is a bunch of them burned, like 10 or 15 years ago. And it was like every week there was a front page fire. So that's that story. But also a lot of landlords are coming in from out of town, slumlords they were called.
Yeah, that's still called
how's that dynamic change, or is it? Or are people still buying it, let me put it in a more positive way, are people still buying those as investment properties?
They're still trying to, yeah. But since the prices have gone up to where they are, it's a little bit more unreasonable now. So I mean, just like with your single-family homes, those buyers, they want a deal too, because it just doesn't make sense for them to walk in and buy a 3-family for $250,000. They're never going to get their money back. It's just not worth their while anymore. So yeah, they're still buying, but not at the pace that they were.
Because the old school, we know this, Boston suburbs, and I was brought up in Berlin, was always like, hey, you buy the 3-decker, mom
live in one,
grandma and grandpa are on the top deck or whatever it is, 3rd floor, so it's a whole family. So speaking of affordability, Brennan, what's talk about affordability. I mean, this idea of affordability, I mean, unless you're Section 8 housing, there's no such thing as I mean, what's affordable? I mean, what if someone comes to this guy? I need an affordable house. What do you say? You just say, "See ya, go to Berlin."
I was on the phone with
Give Kate a call.
with a buyer this morning. You know, and they are continuing to have to look a little more rural, right? Is it Chatham? Is it Albany? Is it Freedom? Is it? It's really a difficult position, to be in if you're looking in the Conway Bartlett region. If you're trying to find starter homes, the average age of a first-time home buyer, this was the end of 2025, was about 40 years old, and that certainly has creeped out of the 30s, right?
Because it used to be like 25.
Well, a long time ago, I think it was in 25, and probably since 2000, I'd have to dig that up, but it had been in the 30s for first-time home buyership, first-time home ownership, and so it has become a little bit further out of reach, right? So you combine record pricing, higher than regional times or normal times interest rates. Interest rates have always kind of floated in 5 to 6%. So we're not drastically over, but coming out of the 3% and the 4%, which a lot of these sellers have.
Right, so they don't want to sell.
They don't want to sell. The average age of a seller right now has been in that 65, 68. And a lot of that is just life moments, right? I mean, if the average age of a seller is in the mid to upper 60s, it's life events. Right. It's downsizing. It's being able to live on your spouse. It's being able to live on your own. It's family finally saying, why don't we, have you move in with us? Right. Which I've seen a lot of uptick in interest in ADUs, accessory dwelling units. We've had a lot of conversations about it. I don't know that we're seeing a huge. This would be a great question for Ryan O'Connor. Where is the permitting on ADUs? I've seen a lot of people talk about it. The construction costs to add on that ADU is expensive.
I think the state just passed a law where, like for mobile homes, you don't have to have a chassis. I mean, they do these things to make it easier to put a manufactured home in.
They are.
That kind of thing. But in the aggregate, can Conway itself, or ever be affordable? I mean, if you go to any tourist market, right. I mean, it is what it is. You go to, never mind Maine, Camden, or Jackson Hole. Yep. I mean, it's just never. I mean, is it true that it will never be affordable to live in Conway? I mean, from that totally affordable perspective.
In the current climate, it's going to continue to be very difficult, right? So what needs to change? We hear about some of these Breckenridge or these resort towns out west, and they, for a lack of a better term, tax their way towards a solution, right? So they take some of their transfer tax, right? So New Hampshire has a transfer tax. You sell a house, it's $15 per thousand tax on the transfer of the house, right? That goes to the state for money, and then there's an L-chip fee that goes towards preserving and buying land, right? Other states have taken that transfer fee money and they've put it right into housing opportunities, and being able to do development or let's say subsidized development, but create opportunities for deed restricted or income restricted housing opportunity. We don't really have that. The legislature floats various ideas out there, right? But we haven't had a silver bullet. I don't know that there is one. There needs to be kind of a comprehensive, is it zoning? Is it some subsidy in the sense of supporting development? Building's expensive.
What do you think about, this is my political question for you.
Yes.
So, what they're talking about over the John Fuller property.
Yes.
And so there's they're talking about carving out 2 acres and putting whatever it is, 12 or 14 homes there.
Right.
Affordable. So they're putting out bids at some point.
Right.
In my layperson's perspective, how can that possibly come back as affordable unless it's subsidized in some way?
It's likely subsidized in some way, right? So,
but who?
It's these large developers. I mean, look at the projects that are down by Poliquin Drive, right? It's tax credits, it's subsidized engineering support. It is government intervening to make the process more affordable, and they're building on larger scale, right?
But the school, and I don't know how much you follow this, but the school is saying, hey, we're going to put out an RFP just to get, who are they? That's not like dealing with a Vesta or anybody that has has the wherewithal to do that, which takes years.
It takes years.
But just putting out a bid is like, I don't get the connection how that
So
translates into affordable housing.
it won't be affordable if it's just fair market, right?
There's no way.
It won't be.
I mean, if the Whispering Pines are seven, I mean, their building costs are crazy. That's why they're $700,000.
Building costs are crazy, right? So that is unless there's some economic incentive or support package there, there's really not a way to make it affordable, or they end up being tiny. I mean, some of the footprints over at the apartments, they're kind of snug footprints, but that is the volume they had to build to get the pricing to turn a profit. And a lot of these businesses, they are for-profit entities, right? I mean, they are doing this to make money,
Absolutely.
right? They turned the is it the snow school over in Freiburg into
Right.
apartments, right?
Right.
Was that a Vesta? That was a larger corporation that has experience in converting buildings into housing. There's no silver bullet. The legislature has looked at, okay, well, let's tax $1 million homes. Anyone who has an assessed value over $1 million, let's just tax them more. And that got messy. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it in New York, right? New York's looking at doing the same thing.
Yeah.
New York City. There's not a lot of favorability for some things like that, right? In the vacation market and the market around the lake and Winnipesaukee, right? All would be hit with an extra tax. So that died on the vine down at the legislature. So how do you create affordability for that workforce, which the business owners are looking for, right? Without incentivizing the market. There's a lot of pressure to lower interest rates. And if you lower interest rates go back to 5%, that gives you more buying power for the first-time home buyer or the family that's living together that wants 2 homes. But what you also run into is the investors can buy at the same
Right. Yeah.
and guess what they're going to do?
Right.
Go buy. And I've heard them say, if rates drop, I'll buy 2 more. So
when you say investors, like, what do you mean investors in our market?
multifamily investors, commercial investors,
People who are locally.
locally, and then just business owners. I mean, we certainly have, if you look at the tax rolls, we have commercial owners and even multifamily owners that don't live here, right? They've had success buying multifamilies in Massachusetts and Boston or whatever. They'll come up here and
So
buy.
there's always people looking at this market.
Always,
Yeah.
always.
Okay, last question. Predictions. Kate, what do you think about the market in Berlin-Gorham in the next 5 years? Better? I mean, it depends where you're buying or selling, but
Exactly, yeah. I think things are going to start to even out with really over the next year or so. I think that prices are going to become a little bit more reasonable. I think that rates are going to start to go down a little bit, and I think that the buyers are going to start really coming back into the market. I think that we're going to see really big things happen.
big
over the
things
next,
in terms of
I
a
do.
buyer's perspective? Or
From both perspectives,
From
you
a
know,
transaction
sellers, yeah. So sellers ultimately they want to sell their house. Yes, they want to get as much money as they can for it, but at the end of the day, they want to sell their house. So when we can get those numbers down just a little bit and get buyers and sellers back on the same page, which we're in the process of doing right now, yeah, we're going to see big things.
And it must be an older I mean, you talk about the 65-year-old and up group. That's my age bracket. There's a whole bunch of baby boomers that are going to be getting out of them, want to be downsized.
Yeah, they're in the process of doing that now. Yep.
Yeah. Brendan, what do you think about Conway in the area?
Yeah, so I think the future is also rosy. I want to hope that we're going to skip away from the downturns that larger markets and other markets have seen across the country. I think there will continue to be some pressure on pricing. I have a feeling that we might, as we go into this winter, might be the first time that we start to see a month-over-month decrease. I think it was
Decrease
going
in sales?
median home price.
Oh, price.
Yeah, I mean it's statistics are statistics. If you will see housing sales drop as you go into the winter, but they always do.
Right.
Right. So I think sales will drop, but that's seasonal, right? Prices will drop, that's seasonal. But when we came out of the spring, quote me on April or May or so, we were 1.1% over the year prior. So let's say it was May, right? The median home price came up to $525. I don't have the exact number, but it was 1.1% over the prior year, right? That doesn't beat inflation.
Right.
Right? So that is putting us pretty close to that. We come around to February, May of next year. Might that be 1.1 or 2.2 down? right? It will build back up again as we go into the summer, because the summer just breeds more excitement in the real estate market. I think the end of this year, if not the beginning of 2027, we'll see the first push on prices. Berlin saw about a 2% drop in values in 2025, kind of by the end of the year. I think Conway, I think this region in New England is going to start to see a little bit of that pressure as well.
You know, one last thing. I can remember in the mid-2000s, people would say, you know, this is 20 years ago now, people would say, we're going to have a crash. Like the prices has gone so crazy, and then I can afford, and we did. And it's been since 2010, 11, 12. So we're going on like 15 years before we've had a serious downturn.
Yeah, it's been 14 years in Carroll County of positive appreciation.
I mean, you see anything on the horizon, not to end on a negative note, but you see anything on the horizon that could throw us, because they always come, you know, black swan event, right? Boom.
Right.
I mean, you guys see anything that could happen? And Noah's a good answer.
I don't think it's local. I don't see anything locally that's gonna pull prices down. I think it's gonna be a global situation or an economy situation that would be that huge push, right?
Yeah.
That 10% drop in value. I do think that we are lagging in the country of getting pressure on these prices that blew up coming out of COVID. So we're seeing the buyers say, we'd like to buy a house, but probably not at that price. And that is starting to squeeze.
But
that.
even 10%, not to belabor this, but even 10%, I mean, after doubling a price from 4 years ago, I mean, 10%, it's not a whole lot.
The sellers, for the most part, if you bought your house more than 2 years ago, you have equity, right? I mean, if you've owned your house for 5, 6 years, you've got equity, right? You can stomach that.
Right.
Now, every seller is certainly, we strive to get them the highest and best value. Who's going to pay the most for your house? That's your right, and the appreciation exists, right? We work on that every day and try to achieve the best for every seller. The buyers are eager, they're still there. So that's why I don't see anything locally backing off our prices, because we have buyer demand.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be, if prices stabilize would be the softer way to say it, it's going to be better for buyers. If we see the interest rates move a little bit, I think buyers are going to be in a little bit better position. If interest rates drop, if we get to a 5 in the beginning again, we're going to see appreciation again, because the investors are also hungry.
Good. Kate, very nice. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very
Brandon,
much. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, take care until next time.
Thank you.